Looking for a car you can count on? At AutoMasters, we offer a hand-picked selection of used and certified pre-owned vehicles priced right and ready to drive. With easy financing and expert service, AutoMasters is your trusted dealership from test drive to keys in hand. AutoMasters, driven by trust, powered by service. Visit our website at automasters06.com or stop by today. And oh yeah, tell them Sonia sent you.
She say, sports. She say, sports. She say, sports. She say, sports.
Hey y'all, it's your girl Sonia, and welcome back to She Say Sports. Please welcome back co-host of Inside the HBCU SportsLab, SWAC digital play-by-play voice and sideline reporter, Charles Bishop.
Hey Sonia, how you doing?
I am well, Charles. How are you?
Doing well. We got another football season up and rolling, so we're in the
I'm loving it. You know, with football season comes apple cider, the fall. Even though we're in the South, we don't get a lot of fall, but we do get glimpses of it. So I'm excited. I really am.
No doubt.
So we're going to start out. You were at Jackson State and Southern's game in Hattiesburg on last Saturday. We got defeated 38-20. Was not the outcome we were looking for. But my question for you is, what were your overall thoughts on the Jackson State Southern Miss game this past Saturday?
Well, I think despite the loss, I think you saw things with regards to this Jackson State football team that should bode well for them during the course of the season. This is still a very physical Jackson State football game. Yeah. And that was one of the things that I took notice of. They did not cede the line of scrimmage to USM all day. And that's one of the things that you really have paid attention to with regards to this TC Taylor team, even with the loss last year to Louisiana Monroe to open up the season. What jumps out at you is the offensive line and the defensive lines are very physical. And Jackson State, quite honestly, they were able to run the ball against an FBS opponent. They rushed for over 200 yards. They netted, when you take the sacks out, just under 200 yards. But to be able to do that against the FBS team, I think that speaks volumes about what Coach Taylor has been preaching into this Jackson State football team. And if not for a lot of, I think, near misses, they probably would have had more sacks. They had 2 sacks in the game, and they had Braylon Braxton in their clutches a few other times. They could have brought him down. He's a big kid. But, I thought, defensively they did well from a defensive line perspective. They didn't allow USM to really get up and run in the ball. I think the stats are kind of skewed a bit because they were able to run the ball in the fourth quarter a little bit after the defense was worn down. But when the game was in balance, Jackson State's defense was right there.
I agree. I saw a little of it. I didn't see a lot of it. And, there were Jackson State fans saying that the referees were cheating. I wasn't there, so I don't know. So did you see any situations like that possibly? Or
I think from a fan perspective, you always, see things through your lens, but I don't sort of buy into that. I mean, there is a reality that Jackson State had 12 penalties in that game. And I think when you're playing behind the chains, as Jackson State did, I think that hurt them quite a bit in this game. But, for every call that there is, there's probably another missed call somewhere else.
Gotcha.
And, honestly, I saw a couple, holdings that were, quite honestly tackles. But, it's one of those things. It's football. I think from a fan perspective, people, look at it through their team's eyes and they want each and every call. But I just don't subscribe to that.
Yeah, I got you. So, Charles, which team do you think controlled the tempo and momentum throughout the game?
I don't know if there was a controlling of the tempo. I think it was just good ebb and flow. I think when you take a look at the game, USM jumped out initially. I thought Jackson State move the ball, and they were able to get back and get a score. So that's what I was kind of looking for, just good ebb and flow. If you go back and look at another FCS FBS matchup, Alabama State was able to match UAB's sort of scoring output mano a mano. And I kind of saw some of the same things with regards to Jackson State. They weren't able to get in the red zone, and there were penalties. I thought that hurt them along the way. But again, you go into halftime only down a touchdown. The game was still in the balance deep into the third quarter when I thought, USM scored that touchdown, and I just didn't think, based on what I had been looking at with regards to Jackson State offense, whether they could muster a couple of touchdowns in the final quarter.
Gotcha. So, Charles, how did Jackson State's defense perform against Southern Miss's offense? You mentioned they got tired. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I thought they afforded themselves very well. Like I said, the game was really in the balance going into the third quarter, 17-10, before I thought USM sort of broke it open with a touchdown, 24-10, as you get ready to go in the fourth quarter. But again, I think during the course of the game, the defense was probably out there a little bit longer than they wanted to. I think Jackson State, had quite a few, offensive opportunities that bogged down. If I'm not mistaken, the stat was 5 of 14 on third down. So, that's that. Eventually, that catches up with you. But like I said, I thought they did a tremendous job in terms of stopping USM running the football for the better part of the game. I think USM did a great job of capitalizing on their opportunities. So, it's one of those things. I think, you look back at it, Jackson State, I'm sure, they looked at it in a Sunday film and was like, I can't believe we let that one get away. I said, they did a great job. When you're talking about a quarterback in Braylon Braxton, who was 8-0 last year at Marshall, he transfers USM. He's a tremendous dual threat quarterback. And Jackson State did a good job of sort of pinning him up. And like I said, they got to him a few times and weren't able to get him down on the ground. And I think those were the missed opportunities that could have been, sort of momentum changers in the game for Jackson State.
Gotcha. And so, for some of the fans or listeners who's listening now, you mentioned Braylon from Marshall and even the coaches from Marshall. A lot of people don't know the story behind it. Can you give some a little background how this coach came to USM, what happened for him to leave?
Yeah, I did a tremendous job up there in Marshall. Got a job opportunity at USM, but not only that, but probably brought 40 new faces, if I'm not mistaken, more than 40 new faces to this USM football team. So, you kind of laugh and say, well, this is Marshall in USM uniforms. For the
the entire team left. The entire team.
He brought quite a few guys with him, but Charles Huff, he's a Hampton grad, comes from HBCU background. He's worked the ladders of the coaching fraternity, if you will, and made his way now to University of Southern Mississippi.
That's awesome. So, what stood out most about Southern Miss's game plan or execution to you?
Like I said, it was very good ebb and flow from both teams. So I can't say that there was something that jumped out to me with regards to USM. I think Braylon Braxton is a heck of a quarterback. I said, just showing his presence in the pocket and his ability to get away from oncoming defensive rush. But I just thought it was good ebb and flow. I thought things kind of hung in the balance for quite some time in this game. So I can't pinpoint something. Well, they did this really, really well, and Jackson State couldn't stop it. And vice versa with regards to Jackson State. They did X, Y, X very well, and USM couldn't stop it. So it was a true good football game. That purists would enjoy. That had ebb and flow to it. USM had their opportunities, and sometimes they couldn't convert. Jackson State had their opportunities. The USM's defense did a good job of keeping them from converting. So when you have a game like that, sometimes it's the ancillary things. We saw USM early in that game. They were able to block a punt, scoop and score. That's one of their scores that's sitting up on the board. So it's all those little things that made the sort of the difference in the game. Well, when you take a look at the defense being out there too long, special teams, touchdown, things of that nature, and I thought USM was able to pull away in the fourth quarter.
Gotcha. So, you mentioned Braylon. Were there
Braxton.
any other players, other players on either team who really stepped up or surprised you?
You take a look at Jackson State. Travis Terrell had a tremendous game. Just from the standpoint of he rushed for 80 yards, had 10 carries. But I think Jackson State going forward, I think the health of Travis Terrell is going to be a huge thing for them. And even when you take a look at this game, they didn't have some of the weapons that I thought would have made a tremendous difference in this game. They lost Jonas Fortillion early in the contest. So deep balls, jump balls that he's able to go up and get. He wasn't available. Shamar Savage didn't play in this game. Another big home run threat for Jackson State, 6'5" receiver. But guys like Ahmad Miller, you're going to be calling their names the rest of the season. Travis Terrell. Jackson State has a bevy of backs. Ontario Davenport's another one who had 30 yards in this game. But, Jackson State kind of hung their hat on the physicality of offensive line and the running backs. And, I think the downfield stuff will come later on this season. Gotcha.
And how about the coaching strategies differ between the two teams? What did you see different with the different coaching strategies?
I don't know if it was a different coaching strategy. I think when you have dual threat quarterbacks such as Jacobian Morgan and Braylon Braxton, you always want to try to do what you can to kind of keep them pinned up because once they are able to kind of take off and get out of the pocket, they are able to sort of create havoc and create good plays out of broken plays. And I think we saw that especially with Braylon Braxton for USM. So I thought, the coaching strategies sort of mirrored each other. Both teams, I think, wanted to run the ball a little bit, and Jackson State proved that they were able to do that. And defensively, they did a pretty decent job of stopping USM.
Yeah, that's true. So, Charles, did you notice any adjustments made at halftime that influenced the second half?
I hate to keep coming back to it, but just the ebb and flow of the ball game did not, allow for you to sit there and say, I see what they did. Like I said, the game was 17-10, and I thought USM did a great job of not allowing Jackson State to hit some home run balls because when you're playing an FCS, FBS contest, you need to get some home run balls or get some plays downfield. Their secondary did a good job. I think that's what you might be alluding to in terms of I think Jackson State fans wanted to see some defensive pass interference calls in their regards. But, good defense to the victor goes and spoils on that. But just the adjustments part of it, I think it really comes down to Jackson State kind of wore down, I think, in that third quarter. And I think USM doesn't score until about the 5-minute mark of the third quarter where they go up on Jackson State by 2 touchdowns. And I think at that point, you really did not feel as though Jackson State could chase USM down from 2 touchdowns based on the offensive production that day.
Gotcha. So what does this game mean for both team seasons moving forward?
Very early in the season. I think, Jackson State is able to take some positives away from it. And I think, again, I come back to the physicality portion of it. Their offensive line was able to run the football. The defensive line was able to put pressure on Braylon Braxton. So they afforded themselves very well playing up in competition. For USM, I think the big thing is, and I think TC alluded to this kind of in the post game is, you get those bragging rights with regards to recruiting. Anytime you've beaten those, get those in-state foes to come to Hattiesburg, that's back-to-back weeks now. They've had Mississippi State there, Jackson State there. They did a decent job against Mississippi State. They get the victory against Jackson State. So you can go into the Waynesboros. You can go into the Wiggins. You can go into, all the hamlets within Mississippi and say, listen, this is where our program is, and this is where we think we could go with you in there. And, to his credit says, he knows that the Jackson State's program is on the right track because he and USM are kind of competing for the same players. So I think that's one of the things that you really take notice of. And I asked this question TC post-game, in terms of the talent gap between FCS and FBS with regards to Jackson State, this USM football team, was really, roughly even. So he knows that Jackson State's program is really on the right track because guys who you would typically see in FBS, in that tier of FBS football, Jackson State is able to get some of those guys, and you do see some impact transfers coming into Jackson State's program. One like Quincy Ivory, young man from Florida, who you would definitely you'll be calling his name during the course of the season because he's Jackson State's next great pass rusher.
I love it. I love it. So, Charles, were there any standout fan moments or traditions that were on full display? What happened with the band?
They did a unity thing. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Some people enjoyed it. Some people like
I saw.
Like the competition of the band, the marching sport, as we like to call it. But yeah,
do you know why they did that? I mean,
Spirit of Glassnose. Who knows? It's two bands in the state of Mississippi, so they.
Do you think it has something?
We've seen it before. Do
you think it has something to do with all the back and forth? Roughing the SWAC. It's a different verbal banter, but I think it kind of got a little tippy last week with stuff.
I'm sure something like that was probably planned out in advance. So I'm sure both band directors thought that it would be, a fun sort of something to do. But I mean, we've seen it before. We've seen, Florida A&M have a unity something. We've seen it with North Carolina, I believe, in North Carolina A&T. So, it's not a foreign concept to see this sort of unity performance. So, some fans enjoy the competition part, and we in SWAC, we come from that competition background, where it's band versus band. But, for the Spirit of Glassnose in the state of Mississippi, I'm sure a lot of people enjoyed watching that.
UNITY.
There
Okay.
you go.
So, well, we're going to move on. What were the most surprising results from week 2 of the SWAC football season for you?
Alabama State going to Baton Rouge and getting a big win over Southern. That game doesn't count in the standings per se, but just the fact that that Alabama State was able to go to Baton Rouge and really, it was a dominant performance. You never felt like, Southern had an opportunity to sort of get themselves acquainted in that ball game. And I tell you what, Andrew Body is really turning heads. Early in this season, had a tremendous performance against UAB. Comes back and backs it up with another great performance against the Southern Jaguars. So Southern, thus far, they've really been kind of the head scratcher because you really have expected more from them, especially from a defensive perspective. But I say, nothing is gained, nothing is lost in September. I think only Texas Southern has a conference loss thus far. So, I think especially with the transfer portal, you're still working the kinks out the first few weeks of the season because you are integrating new faces into the defense, new faces into the offense. I even was listening to Terrell Buckley at the SWAC press conference this past Monday, the coach's press conference, and he was saying, we're still working through finding out the 11 or the 22 we want on the field. So I think, you kind of have a lot of that goes on, not just in the SWAC, but in college football in general. You're trying to kind of separate and make sure you got the right guys during the right moments. And you sometimes go through that. You got to remember, college kids, they don't have a preseason. So they hit the ground running.
They hit the ground running, yeah. It's like we've been hearing Body name for maybe 6-7 years. Is he a graduate student?
Great question. I probably have to look that up. But,
he had some extra years.
He spent 2 seasons at Texas Southern. Then he transfers to Alabama State, gets hurt last year. But he's been around the conference quite a few years now. And, he's been a standout performer. And you wonder if his health is up to par because he got hurt at Texas Southern.
Right.
Shoulder injury, same thing happened at Alabama State. But a healthy Andrew Body could be a dangerous individual in
Oh
the South
yeah,
Athletic Conference.
that's true. So, were there any upsets or close games besides this game that stood out in week 2 for you?
I take a look again at the SWAC matchups. Alabama A&M with a big win over Alcorn. Alcorn has been a head scratcher as well. Not a good performance when you take a look at their first game, out of conference game, if you will, at Northwestern State. Northwestern State hadn't won a game in quite some time, and they get a victory over Alcorn, and then Alcorn comes back and they lose a tough one to Alabama A&M, but Alabama A&M winning at home. I think that's big. They have a quarterback by the name of Cornelius Brown IV, who could turn some heads, much like Andrew Body. It's setting up for a really interesting look-see at the Magic City Classic this upcoming season.
Awesome. So, and I don't know if you're probably gonna say it's too early, but how are the week 2 results shaping the SWAC standings and playoff projections?
Not as of yet. Like I said, it's too early in the season. We haven't really gotten to conference play. Again, you look at the one conference game that's happened, Labor Day Classic. Prairie View wins a walk-off touchdown against Texas Southern. Very emotional game for Prairie View in terms of getting that win. Tremaine Jackson's first win for Prairie View. But you look at the next week, and there was a bit of a letdown against UT Rio Grande Valley. And, Coach Jackson talked about that in the Monday presser in terms of, he felt like, maybe that win kind of lingered a little bit longer than he would have liked.
Gotcha. Are there any teams that look like early favorites to win their division or the conference?
Nothing gained, nothing lost in September. We got a lot of football to be played. Like I said, I think Alabama State has absolutely turned heads. That's a quality win for Jackson State against Hampton. Anytime you're playing out of conference and Hampton plays in the CAA conference, really tough conference, but that's a very quality win. I did not expect it to be JSU by 40 in that first game against Hampton because they have a very good coach. I think they'll have a very good team this upcoming season. Whether they do anything in the CAA is another question, but I think they are a young football team that's going to get better as the season goes on. So we'll have to kind of monitor how much of a quality win Jackson State had against Hampton. But, again, the first couple of games, you're still working the kinks out. I think it's fair. The question right now, Jackson State hasn't really thrown the ball downfield the way that you want to see them kind of open up the offense a little bit. But again, I take a look at the 2024 Jackson State Tigers. They hung their hat on a running game. And then once you started sneaking the safety up and you had 8 men in the box, you could get those passing opportunities downfield. And I think you'll see that. I think you'll see Jonas Fortillion open things up. You see Shamar Savage, like I said, those 2 big deep threats for Jackson State on the outside. And then you have to start paying attention to a guy like Nate Rembert working the slot. So I think that, it's still a lot of football to be played.
Gotcha. So before I say that, how does this matchup between Tuskegee is looking for us this weekend?
Tuskegee comes in 2-0, and I say the biggest thing about Tuskegee, don't forget, they kicked Jackson State's rump the last time they played them. You go back to 2017, 34-7 win for the Golden Tigers. That game was down there in Mobile. It was a tough game if you're a Jackson State faithful to sit back and watch that because Jackson State literally had more penalty yardage than total yardage in that game. So, just look what has happened to the Jackson State football program within the last decade now since 2017. So I think it'll be a complete 180. But again, Jackson State during that period of time, they were losing to Division II teams. They lost to Tuskegee. They lost to Kentucky State. So you got to get your lick back now.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I saw a post the other day. Karamu Cunning put it up, and it was very interesting. And he said, I don't know if you saw it, but he said, we play Alabama State homecoming October 11th. He said that game will determine who will be in the SWAC championship. What are your thoughts on that? on that?
I think it's very early to say that. I think Alabama State has been one of the more impressive teams through the first couple of games. That's a big win, or I should say a big win against Southern, and then they look really, really good against UAB. And they've been knocking on the door. But I think, I think the sort of the red herring that you take a look at with regards to this season is, so far, the quarterbacks have been healthy. And I think when we take a look back at the unicorn of a season that was last year, you had so many quarterbacks that went down during the course of the season. So, you're playing teams with their second, third. In Alabama State's their fourth string quarterback, a young man who started out the season as a wide receiver who starts playing quarterback. So I think you still have a lot of season left. October 11th, you can circle that, because I think, Alabama State, they've certainly circled, playing the HBCU national championship team, and they've come into Jackson before, and they've won in Jackson. You go back to 2023 when Alabama State came into Jackson and got a huge win over TC Taylor then. So I think, October 11th is fair to circle it, but don't count out Alabama A&M. Keep an eye on them. I love that quarterback. I mentioned his name earlier, Cornelius Brown IV. I think he's another dual threat guy who can get things done. And watch this. There's still a lot of football to be played. You cannot count out Florida A&M Rattlers. They have not looked good, quite honestly, over the first couple of weeks of the season. But at some point they're going to get things up and rolling. So I don't think October 11th, the story is written October 11th. I think you have to get it in November, and I think that's when the story gets written. That's when it's normally written in the SWAC.
Gotcha. Charles, as always, thank you for joining me on the show. But we have a little game we play, and it's called What You Know. And I'll be asking you a few questions, and you choose the one that best fits you. Now, you're the reason why you and Rod Walker are the reason why I added multiple choice, because you were just whining. So I've added multiple choice. I hope that works for you. So that's all I can say. Let's get into it. So who holds the record for most career sacks in NFL history? Is it Bruce Smith, DeMarcus Ware, Michael Strahan, I love him, or Reggie White?
In NFL history? Or
Who holds the record for the most career sacks in NFL history? Bruce Smith, DeMarcus Ware, Michael Strahan, or Reggie White?
I'm going to go Reggie White.
Bruce Smith.
I knew it was I'd eliminated all the choices down to Bruce Smith and Reggie White, so I took a chance with Reggie White. Of course, it'll be Bruce.
It's okay.
I bet you I get the rest of them right.
Okay, let's go. I love it. Which NFL player set the record for the youngest player ever drafted at age 19? Was it Danielle Hunter, Kyle Pitts, Amobi Okoye, I don't know if I'm saying that last name right, or Tremaine Edmonds? Which NFL player set the record for the youngest player ever drafted at age 19?
It's such a ChatGPT question.
No, it's not. It's not a chat GPT. Thank you very much.
Yeah, well, I'm whining about that one. So.
Yeah, I don't know how to please you, sir. Danielle Hunter, Kyle Pitts, Amobi Okoye, Okoye, or Tremaine Edmonds.
Let's go Tremaine Edmonds.
Amobi.
Yeah.
He was
youngest player. Yeah, that's Thursday night bar action tribute. Yep.
You're such a hater, sir. Whatever. Which player has the most career interceptions in NFL history? Is it Paul Krause, Emlyn Tunnel, Rod Woodson, or Night Train Lane?
I don't think it's Dick Night Train Lane. Emlyn Tunnel. Krause plays safety. What was the other name? Oh, Rod Woodson.
Rod Woodson.
Let's go with Krause from Minnesota.
Really good job. Look, and then you go look off.
Process of elimination. I had to get there. I had to think about a safety.
Name the scholar, actor, and performer that was an All-American football star, valedictorian of his class at Rutgers, and earned a law degree from Columbia University. Was it John Amos? Can I do don't do that.
Okay.
Jim Brown, Paul Robeson, or L.T. Taylor?
It is the Alpha by the name of Paul Robeson.
Did you hear the last name?
No, I didn't.
LT. I said LT.
Oh, I know it was LT.
Last one. Name the movie that depicted the life of football. And let me finish. Star Gail Sayers. Was it Remember the Titans? I was trying to give you an easy one. Brian's Song, Any Given Sunday, or The Longest Yard?
I'll give a dramatic pause as I go with Brian's Song.
That is
The
correct.
story of Brian Piccolo.
That is so correct. Thank you so much, Charles. Tell the listeners how they can follow you on social media and listen to you on sports in the... I don't know why I can't ever get that right. Just tell them. You go.
Tuesdays and Thursdays, as well as Sundays on Dr. Bill's Inside the HBCU SportsLab on the Black College Sports Network. You'll also see me doing play-by-play for SWACTV. So I have some games coming up here very shortly. September 25th is my first game. Mississippi Valley State. Texas Southern and Mississippi Valley State. So you'll be hearing me on SWACTV doing play-by-play with Charles Porter. So looking forward to my games on SWACTV.
Awesome. And guys, you can follow me on Facebook at She Say Sports, Instagram, She Say Sports 23, and please subscribe to our YouTube page, She Say Sports. Well, that's my show for today. Until next time, this is Sonia with She Say Sports.
She say sports. She say sports. She say sports.